Aloha and welcome to Hawaii Web Group's CS5 Photoshop tutorial. This is a sped up version of a logo design for a new surf and skate shop on Newport Boulevard in California for newportsurf.com. Here you can see us using the 3D text tool where we're tweaking position, perspective, and adding some spotlights. To do this you have to go to 3D, Repousse, then hit text layer. If it won't let you because it says you have a faux bold text, go ahead and select the text with your text tool and then right click and then you can toggle off the faux bold. When you do finally render the text for spotlighting and shadowing, make sure you have a lot of time because it takes a while. Here we're extending the background because we don't have enough room, and we're positioning the words to fit better and look like they're kind of sitting on top of each other. What we're going to do is fill in each letter, so we're not really interested in what the front face looks like other than having it be clean and white. There's a lot of different ways to do anything in Photoshop. So here we're just using it for the web and we're not as concerned about the high quality you might need to print something. So what we've done is selected each letter with the magic wand tool and used that to get the face of it, make a stroke for each letter, and then fill in every element. Changing the opacity of the skateboarder allows us to see where it'll fit exactly on the letter. Then we use the polygonal lasso or the magic wand tool to cut out the shapes and fill in whatever's left over and needed. We want his arm to stick out a little bit, so what we did is cut it out, put it on a new layer, and then we used the inner shadow to kind of get rid of the white on the edges, and then we flattened it. We want contrast on these letters against the dark background, so we've used some of these pictures that have white in them and lightened them up, like the R here. The way we did that was feather a circle selection and then fill in a new layer of white on top of it. You can always do it by using levels or curves too. For the spray here we use a splatter brush to delete and add white to it. We also could have used a feathered selection to cut that out, but it would have been harder towards the areas that are close to the surfer. For the E, I wanted the skateboarder to look like he was coming up over it, but there wasn't enough image underneath him, so I used the pen tool to make a shape and make it into a little skate ramp. I then used a gradient overlay to give it a little more color and make it look more realistic. I then flattened that object so that I could be able to cut it out. I like using the polygonal lasso to cut different things out because I have more control over it. I'll often add a 1 pixel feather to it though, just so it looks more blurred on the edges and more realistic to the background. Here I'm using every photographer's favorite tool, the clone stamp, to clean up some blemishes that iStock forgot to clean up. I've used an opacity to it so that it blends in better, or you could use a healing brush. Again, there wasn't enough wave under this guy's surfing picture, so I'm using a picture of mine and chopping it up and adding the wave to it. I changed my mind on this one a couple times, as you can see, and then flipped it and flipped it. Again, polygonal lasso, and again, the splatter brush. I like to have show transform control toggled on at all times so that I can just shift and hit the corners and flip things around. Again, I'm using opacities to align these different images. When pulling these new layers in and resizing them, I make sure to hold the shift key down so that I can constrain the proportions. Now I'm using a feathered selection to drop a fill in and then change the opacity to make it look like it's a drop shadow. And I'm doing it on all these letters. I want the end of the Newport to look like it's sitting behind surf, so I'm adding some shadow to the O and the R and make sure the T sticks out behind it. Here I'm giving the background a vignette by using another feathered selection. We want the new to kind of hang over the surf, so we're doing another feathered selection and filling it on a new layer and then cutting out sections. This makes for a nice looking drop shadow. We hope you've gotten something out of this brief tutorial. Please join us and check out our site at hawaiiwebgroup.com. Aloha, and we'll see you around Maui.